Long time no talk, huh? Well, I think part of why I've been hesitant to get on here by myself is that I didn't want to seem like I was pontificating, which is silly because that's exactly what a podcast is. Somebody pontificating, somebody talking into the ether that ends up being your ears, whoever you may be, whenever you may be. It is May 29th, 2020, 24. 2020, 24? Sure, that sounds right. I wanted to come on here for a couple reasons, because it's been a while. And also, I want to talk about writing and writing in recovery. And try not to sound like a pontificating asshole too much. Only just to kind of share what I have learned and what I have gathered. Because I got the opportunity to teach a class entitled Writing in Recovery. And before we get further into this, we're currently listening to Herbie Nichols' The Third World, the complete Blue Note recordings of one of the most remarkable and unique composers, pianists in jazz. So I don't know what you can hear of that. I just got a little something on in the background. So I think a lot of it too has to do with feeling like a charlatan, right? Or a imposter syndrome. Should I really be doing this? Is this of value to someone? How much value? How much do I charge for these classes? What do I actually say? How do I fill a 2-hour class with pertinent information that's interesting and entertaining? You know, part of the reason why I liked having a guest, and especially one of the reasons I like, Wagner and I had some magic, I thought. And when I talked to other people, there was more to riff on. It wasn't just the thoughts in my head popping out and being unchecked. So that's what's going to happen now. I don't know. We'll see how far this goes. Also, forgive the nasally stuffed upness. I'm on day 4 of the COVID. This is my second bout in 2 years, so I guess I'm pretty lucky. Today feels like a slight hangover. That's the best way I can put it. Yesterday was it was the bad hangover from the 3-day bender. It was the day after the 3-day bender. The flu-like symptoms are gone, but it's still kind of coughing. My head is throbbing a little bit. And, I'm a little phlegmy from smoking too many cigarettes and drinking too much whiskey. That 3-day bender kind of, ugh. So, writing in recovery. I think for me, it started with The Artist's Way, and that was a book by Julie Cameron, who I think is Martin Scorsese's wife, if I'm not mistaken. And I did this with an ex-girlfriend. I did this with a friend. I did the whole thing twice. And then I started with somebody else, and that petered out during the height of the pandemic when everyone was locked in, when I was in this bedroom for most of better part of a year, on and off, depending on which lockdown, curfew / whatever we were on. But the consistency of the writing started with The Artist's Way. And that was, I think, 3 pages a day, which amounted to about 15 minutes. And I didn't do it regularly up until 6 years ago, maybe. So 2018, something like that, 17, 18, where I got into it every single day. And now it's something that I can't do without. And if I forget, if I get sidetracked in the morning and I get out somewhere and we're going to do something, and then I remember and I go, oh shit, I got to write something. So I get the page, I put the date, and then I just say one line, distracted by whatever. distracted by errands, distracted by love, distracted by work, distracted by whatever, so that at least there's a page in that journal that reminds me that I need to do it every single day. The last couple days with COVID, it's been much later. Last night and then this afternoon, the mornings have been very hard. And so the writing in recovery, I think the first thing I would say is just grab a notebook, any notebook around the house. One of the big things I think that we do, one of the big things that I know people do, is they'll go out and they'll go find a beautiful notebook. They'll go to the bookstore, or the stationery store, the wherever. Go to Target and you start shopping for notebooks. That's going to be this beautiful, precious, look at my notebook, and it's got this cover, and maybe it's leather bound, and maybe it's got some straps, and maybe you love the way that the lines are laid out, or you love the way that the cover is, and maybe it's a spiral, and maybe it's a glued back, and then it just sits there. Because what happens is you get paralyzed because everything that goes inside this beautiful notebook has to be amazing. And you can't write anything amazing. And so you don't write anything at all. Which I have been guilty of. And now I just grab anything. I tell people. My girlfriend gave me a stack of notebooks, several of them from her kids' classes, and so that he's done with. So I just take those. Leave the used papers in there already, or don't rip them out. My mom works for Cal Poly, and she got me a handful of notebooks from there that just like, here you go. And now I just take whichever one's next in line, whichever one's next on the stack. This year will probably be all those Cal Poly notebooks, but who knows? I've got some sketchbooks. I've got all kinds of stuff. So I think for me, the best thing is to not make it precious. Don't make it precious. It's not a precious thing. It's an exercise. You do it, you get done with it, you move on with your day. You do it, you get done with it, you move on with your day. There's going to be a lot of trash that comes out. There's going to be a lot of garbage that comes out of you. There's going to be a lot of things that you don't like or that you think are supposed to be better. Again, we're not here to get paralyzed by fear or doubt or anything. I mean, that's part of recovery. It's not getting paralyzed by fear. It's not being is about regaining some self-confidence. So this is just another practice to regain some self-confidence back. And so a lot of many of my journal entries will be, this coffee kind of sucks today. I put too much sugar or too much spice, too much cinnamon. There's birds out there. I got to go to work. This is bullshit. I'm tired. My body hurts. When is my life going to change? Blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of complaining. There's a lot of boring stuff. And occasionally be like, wow, I saw the Bullock Oriole at the hummingbird feeder. And there's not much else in there. I've just woken up. Probably I've made my coffee. I go and find my spot in the seat, in the chair, or outside. And maybe there isn't much. And that's fine. And then I get it done. And then I close the book and I move on. The times when it works best, the times when it works in my favor in helping me with recovery is when I ask myself questions, I ask myself questions about resentments I might have or things that are bothering me, and just start writing that out. I mean, I've had people in my life who annoy me, or situations that frustrate me, and I just start writing about it, and not in any particular way, just, this is bullshit. I can't believe this happened. this motherfucker, blah, 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 blah. And at the very least, I feel a little bit better about getting it out somewhere else, that it's not just in me. Excuse me. And that's part of it. Part of getting out the poison, and part of putting it somewhere where you can make sense. And as it flows out, sometimes it changes, and sometimes solutions show up. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Sometimes I'll write the same thing. I mean, I was noticing a trend that I was stuck and I'm bored and I got to go to work, and all I do is think about money, and all I do is think about work, and all I do is think about money, and over and over and over. And I'm not doing anything to change that. I'm simply doing it over and over and over again. But that's part of finding the pattern. I don't always go back and read everything. Recently, I've been kind of flipping through it. There's huge swaths, books and books where I haven't read, and then there's stories in there that I want to go and dig and find up and rewrite and pull out of those journals and say, hey, this would be a good story. But for the most part, it's really just about getting it done. It's really just about making it less precious and just getting it done, getting the words out. I mean, my handwriting has just gotten worse and worse. I have to be careful because I was working on a story and I was going back over it, and part of the class was to read what you had written or to share a favorite paragraph, and I couldn't read my own handwriting. So I need to be a little more careful with that. I always appreciate the artist friends that I have, and when they write very, very beautifully and precise, and mine has gotten worse the more I've written. So that would be something I would say is take your time. And that can be frustrating too, when all I want to do is get it done because I don't want to do it. And I have those mornings. And even those mornings, and I put it off, I'm like, God, I got to do it. Well, you just got to do it. So not making it precious, I think, is the lesson for today. And just sitting down and writing what you feel and writing what you think. And those are two different things. Obviously. You can get into being better at writing. What are some of the techniques? Well, I feel sad. Well, that doesn't convey shit. But you can talk about how one of your best friends just moved away and is going to be in the middle of the country, and you can't call them up, and there's no one to hang out with, and it really bums me out. So I write that. And if it makes me a little weepy, that's fine. If it helps console me in some way, it does. That's fine too. The content is not so important. There will be days where it's of big importance, and you have epiphanies that you would not have thought that when you started and you didn't want to start, that show up on page 3 or 4. So I think the first thing is just grab a sheet of paper, grab a Post-it note if you want to do it, however you want to do it. Don't waste your time getting something pretty to write in. I would say find a good pen. That does make a difference. Although I was trying to burn through pens, I try to think of myself. I'm very frugal in many ways, and I'm a little more capricious with my cash in other ways. Is that the right word? Capricious? But I do like to burn through the pen. So there's been some crappy pen journals, but I do find that I have been enjoying the Sharpie S Gel 0.7. It's got some nice quality to it. Nice, like, paint goes on. It's good. Stupid, whatever notebook, just get started. And don't bother yourself Don't bother yourself with what it is. Don't bother yourself with it having to be good. And in fact, don't even read it. Just be done with it. Start the next day. It's not there to be read. It's more about just getting stuff out. You can if you want. I would suggest getting a few pages down, getting a few books down. But I don't always go back. Although as of lately, and the more dissatisfied I am in certain aspects of my life, then I will go looking for patterns because I don't want to be dissatisfied with life. You hear all the time that consistency is key over and over and over and over. And unfortunately, that is the truth. And I'd like to tell you it isn't otherwise. Definitely diet and exercise if that's your thing. Recovery for sure. You got to stack them days. At least in the program that I find myself in, I got to stack them days. So I stack the days and I stack the pages, and I hope that at some point something will make some sense to me. So if I were to give you a homework assignment, if I were to give you a writing prompt, I would say I would get your book out, get your page out, and I would say, top of the page, how's it going? And just leave it at that. Now, I think, how's your recovery going? How's your day going? How's it going? And kind of just answer that question. Answer it genuinely. We see each other out in public and, hey, how's it going? It's good. It's good. How are you? Yeah. Whatever. We don't say how's it going in hopes of an honest answer. This is where those honest answers can be put. This is where those honest answers can be found, hopefully, ideally, if you're honest with yourself. And I have found I've been more honest in the pages than I ever was in public. And, there was, you can go back and listen to the last episode if you want to hear all about that. And that was a while ago. But I think that's where it starts with me, is 10 or 15 minutes or 3 pages, whichever you want, depending on how big the book is, how small the book is. I've had tiny books and I go, like, if I'm sick of it, I go, I only have to write 3 pages, and that only takes me 7 minutes. And I'm not fooling anyone, and the only person I'm hurting is myself, right? So find that little system, 10 or 15 minutes. Your writing prompt for today is, how's it going? And just answer that question honestly. I don't want to, I guess I'm going to make this a series. And now that I have to get my outline, I have to get my curriculum, my, what do you call it? Curriculum? Outline? Yeah. I have to go get it so I can talk about these things. I just set this up and I got nothing but my cup of tea and my jazz record because I'm cool like that. Yeah. Don't make it precious. Just get it done. Ask yourself, how's it going? And answer it honestly for as long as you can. And don't think about it. Can you write without thinking? I think you can. I try to do it as much as I can. As much as possible. So I think I'm going to leave it there for today. I hope you found this interesting. I'm still sober. Things are going okay. I mean, you can see what the fuck is going on out there. It doesn't matter whose algorithm you're on. It's kind of fucked. And I guess we're all on our own algorithm, aren't we? Is it harder to be sober now than it was in 2020 or 2016? I don't know. If you're struggling, reach out. I'll be here. I'm always here in some capacity. You can leave me an email, you can send me a text, whatever. I just want to say that writing has been instrumental in my recovery, and we can talk about the joys and pains of self-discovery within writing and all that good shit. And sometimes it's just another annoying thing I need to get out of the way, but I need to get it out of the way and get it out of my head. So I'll leave it there. Writing and Recovery Part 1. Take care, guys. A is for Alcoholic, signing off.